realized I needed for 10 days or 14 days.
We did have to set a date, but I mean, if you continue to pull, if, you know.
350 every time.
Yeah, 350.
Okay.
And we can let it sit there for a few more days, but we just can't let it sit there for months on end waiting for you to fill it.
Sure, okay. I'm with you. All right.
And then so if we put the little paid in the bank at both of those spots, then that would
I put it
help.
after the first 395 and after the first 120.
Help make it clear.
All right, with that correction,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll forget that.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
All right, motion and second, all those in favor of, the one-time user fee schedule policy, prepayment policy? Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Pass 5-0. We'll move on to page 3. This will be the Madison County Solid Waste Department, prepayment contract agreement.
This is basically, the agreement that the person would sign, basically what we just discussed. This is the actual page that they would sign for that. Kind of giving them some limitations on what can be put in the containers. No hazardous waste. And maybe what, Mr. Reeves had suggested, maybe we add that same thing in here.
It says prepayment on
Does
the.
it say?
It says prepayment
The
there.
first prepayment of 395 is required prior to having the container delivered.
Okay.
And then the next one says that other payment must be paid in advance, so I think we got it covered. You know, one thing that's come up in the past is like restaurants and, grease and, you know, all that kind of stuff. We've got in here that the following items are prohibited: hazardous waste, tires, batteries. I guess we've got oil. Do we need to put anything for, grease and that sort of stuff coming out of restaurants?
As long as there's no large volume of it, it's not really a problem on that, because it's still considered on this household.
So just cooking grease in a can would be
That'd be fine.
All right.
Okay. We need to put anything in there, what, no dead animals?
Is that an issue?
Pardon me, didn't
I
understand.
don't know, do we need to put something about no dead animals?
Probably would be advisable, thank you, on that one, if it's gonna sit there very long, I mean, really, the landfill is not. The neighbors are not appreciated.
Well, you know, there, a number of years ago, this caravan, wagon train came through town, and, a mule escaped, got hit by a car.
That's right, you're correct.
Yeah, so there are all kinds of situations out there. Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Sure.
Clay, have you by any chance bounced this off of the landfill? John McHugh?
Most of it has been, I reckon I'm going back to the carcasses on that behalf, and I've dealt with that for so much on it. It's not usually an issue there at the landfill unless especially if it were in a container.
Okay.
But what I was thinking about, if it's sitting on your neighbors or next to your neighbor on that for 7 days, somebody might get upset.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second, we don't have a motion and a second, okay. Do we have a motion on?
I move, Mr. Chairman, accept this.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Moore to accept this on the,
With the change for the
with the
dead
change for the animals.
So does that include the 20 cubic yard and the 6 cubic yard on?
Yes.
Yes, you mean the prepayment? It's on there.
Well, we don't page 3 right now. We said we do it by page.
We're on this page right here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. 5-0. All right, moving to page 4, prepayment agreement contract for the use of 6 cylinder.
Yeah, that'll be the same as the one you just approved, except
Actually,
yards,
Yeah, okay.
smaller container.
Do we need a separate motion?
Well, you've already disposed of one, so you got to dispose of this one.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same sign.
And that'll have the same correction for them.
Yeah, same correction. Okay. Believe that wraps that up. Is that right, Mr. Blair?
Great.
Thank you, brother.
to take care of it. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Watts, we appreciate your help also.
You're welcome.
All right, moving down to new business under number 2, proclamation and presentation of the North Florida Regional Planning Council. Mr. Scott Coons, step forward. How are you this morning?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Scott Coons, Executive Director of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and here today to ask for your consideration to issue a proclamation recognizing the 50th anniversary of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council. We were formed in 1969. And before you consider that proclamation, to declare May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day throughout the county. I'd like to review with you some of the duties, responsibilities of the council and highlight some of the projects and activities we've been involved in over the past 5 decades. Sure, we can advance the slides, right? So talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, and about our 50-year history in a brief summary. The council is an association of local governments comprised of cities and counties throughout North Central Florida. We're part of a statewide network of 10 councils around the state. Our mission is to improve the quality of life of the citizens throughout the region by enhancing public safety, protecting regional resources, promoting economic development, and providing technical services to local governments. Council now is comprised of 12 counties and 40 municipalities. 13 of those are member cities. The council is one of the larger areas in terms of geography in the state, the 8,000 square miles, and our population is over 500,000, 560,000 persons who live in the 12-county region. Council itself is made up of 2/3 elected officials and 1/3 gubernatorial appointees. Commissioner Davis is your current representative on the council. And under state law, counties are required to be members of their regional planning council, and cities may be volunteer participating members, and the city of Madison has been a member for a number of years. Those are our 12 member counties. And the next slide is the 13 member cities. We're governed by an executive committee. Our current chair is Mayor Davis from the city of Waldo. Our vice chair is Commissioner Wilford from the city of Alachua. Our secretary treasurer is Commissioner Cheston from Alachua County. Our executive committee member is Commissioner Demps from Taylor County. And our immediate past chair is Ms. Davis, a gubernatorial appointee from Dixie County. No, excuse me, Ms. Thomas. We have 5 ex officio members. These are actually 6 ex officio members. These are state agencies and water management districts that participate in our meetings, provide us timely updates as well as information that's interest and value to our member local governments. The Department of Economic Opportunity, Environmental Protection, and the State Department of Transportation, as well as the 3 water management districts that cover our region. Council is engaged in a wide variety of activities, starting with regional. We have a strategic regional policy plan to guide future growth and development of the region, just as you have a county comprehensive plan here in the county. We provide advisory comments to federal agencies for grant and loan applications. We also review local government comprehensive plan amendments and provide advisory comments to local governments. In the area of public safety, we work with the North Central Florida Local Emergency Planning Committee in providing training for first responders for hazardous material incidents throughout the region. In the area of transportation, we are the designated planning agency for the state-funded Transportation Disadvantage Program, which provides paratransit services to elderly, disabled, and low-income folks to get to medical appointments. And we staff the local coordinating board in those counties. They meet quarterly. Commissioner Moore serves as the chair of the local coordinating board here in the county, and the service provider in the county is Big Bend Transit. We also work with the city of Gainesville and Alachua County in their urban transportation plan to develop their long-range transportation plan. In the area of economic development, we're a designated economic development district by the U.S. Department of Commerce. We have a strategic economic development plan for diversifying the economy of the region. We provide econometric modeling for projects to determine the secondary employment impact for businesses that locate or expand in your community, as well as provide grant assistance in securing federal and state infrastructure dollars for economic development projects. And lastly, local government assistance. We have 2 activities there. We provide planning services to a number of counties and cities to assist them complying with the Community Planning Act. We don't have that staff capability in-house. And also we file grant applications and then administer projects for community development block grant projects. And over the past 50 years, we've secured over $50 million for 100 projects throughout North Central Florida, many of those here in Madison County and the city. So as I mentioned, we were formed in 1969 on May 7. 5 local governments, elected officials came together from Alachua County, City of Gainesville, Alachua, Hawthorne, and High Springs, and recognized the value of working together with their neighbors to form the council. Then over the next several years, additional jurisdictions joined, adjoining counties and municipalities. And in 1976, on the next slide, Madison County became a member of the Regional Planning Council on December 1st of 1976. And our most recent addition is Levy County, just a few years ago when the state reorganized the boundaries and assigned them to a region. So what was Life like 50 years ago in 1969? The population of the state was 6 million. Today, our state population is over 21 million. We're now the 3rd largest state in the nation behind California and Texas. The regional population at the time was less than 250,000, 225,000, and I mentioned earlier that our current population is over 500,000. The county population here was 13,000, and your population today is over 19,000. President was Richard Nixon, and our governor was Claude Clark Jr. Some significant events. In 1969, it was the year that construction began on Walt Disney World, the year Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, and the jumbo jet, the Boeing 747, took its first inaugural flight. In the economy, you could buy a gallon of gas for 32 cents. Not $3.32, but 32 cents for a gallon of gas. Get a loaf of bread for less than a quarter. A gallon of milk costs you about $1. You can buy yourself a brand new automobile for $2,000. Brand new car, $2,000. Average income is $6,500, and the new house would cost you $40,000. In the world of entertainment and sports, the best picture for the Oscar was Midnight Cowboy. The best song with Grammy was Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In by the Fifth Dimension. And in the sports world, it was clearly the year of the underdog. The World Series, the newly expansion team, the New York Mets, referred to as the Miracle Mets, a very young team, defeated the more experienced and heavily favored Baltimore Orioles in 5 games. And in Super Bowl III, the underdog New York Jets defeated the heavily favored Baltimore Colts by a score of 17-6. So we'll review now some of those projects decade by decade. During our first decade, our first couple projects focused in the Gainesville urban area, transportation and stormwater. We assisted one of the rural counties prepare and adopt their first local government comprehensive plan. We filed our first community development block grant application, received that designation from the U.S. Department of Commerce as an economic development district. The council adopted its first regional plan in that first decade, and also started providing services for transportation planning to the metropolitan area in Gainesville. In our second decade, we adopted our first overall economic development program to diversify the region's economy, completed a research study on feasibility for a research and development park, which led to the development of the Progress Center Research Park in the city of Alachua. At that time, the state legislature was considering designating the floodplain of the Suwannee River and its tributaries as an area of critical state concern. If that had occurred, your local land development regulations in those floodplains would have been subject to state review and approval. Your local ordinances, not your comprehensive plan, but your land development code related to development along the river would have been subject to state approval. In response to that, the council formed the Suwannee River Committee, made up of commissioners from all the counties along the river, developed a model ordinance to protect the riverbank from removal of vegetation and a setback for construction. Every county adopted an ordinance, including Madison County, and as a result of that, the state chose not to designate the area of critical state concern and left that control in the local elected officials. We completed our first regional inland health shelter study, worked with Dixie and Taylor County and some coastal mitigation projects, completed a commercial revitalization study in Gainesville. Also at the time, it's time that you just had a discussion about solid waste. The state adopted legislation requiring counties to have lined landfills. Prior to that, as many of you know, landfills were unlined. There's considerable leachate of chemicals and other fluids into the aquifer, and this was going to result in a significant cost, particularly for small rural counties. So the council formed a task force, worked with a consultant, developed a regional master plan for solid waste management. Our original objective was to see if we could use economies of scale and have one regional landfill for all 11 counties in Jefferson County. One of our neighbors to the west participated, so for those 12 counties to have a single landfill. We didn't quite get there, but we were successful. We have several multi-county landfills. The one that you use in Osceola landfill over in Jefferson County serves 4 of the western counties. The New River landfill in Union County serves 5 of the eastern counties. You advance the next slide. Okay, right. That's okay. In our third quarter, we became involved at the workforce program. Today it's known as Career Source. At the time, it was the Job Training Partnership Act. We served as the administrator, worked with the Private Industry Council and local employers in providing on-the-job training for individuals until that program is reorganized into its current Career Source structure. Began working with that local emergency planning committee. Also at that time formed the original Florida Tourism Task Force to promote our region for ecotourism, cultural-based tourism, and heritage-based tourism. We continue to provide staff service to that organization today. Each county, Madison County is a participating member and very active. Your representatives on that task force is Phyllis Williams with your chamber and the Tourist Development Council, and newly appointed recent members Jackie Blunt as well. Also received a designation to serve as a planning agency, to provide those service plans and work with the Coordinating Board for Transportation Disadvantaged. Began providing the annual planning services related to the 1985 Growth Management Act, and it's a service we provided here in Madison County before you develop capacity and now have your own staff. Also completed our first comprehensive economic development strategy, which was the successor to that overall economic development plan previously adopted. Also in this decade, the citizens of the state, by referendum, adopted into the state constitution a prohibition on net fishing, which had a devastating economic impact on our coastal counties, Dixie and Taylor, as well as Levy County, our neighbor to the south. Council formed the Big Bend Tri-County Task Force, made up of elected officials and fishermen from those counties, worked with them for several years, helped them get organized and start the now very successful and prosperous clam farming industry along our Gulf Coast. And also completed local mitigation strategies for a number of counties, including Madison. In our fourth decade, Council formed the North Central Florida Regional Hazardous Materials Response Team for fire rescue departments to work together to respond to hazardous material incidents in the region. Also, there was a recommendation coming out of the Tampa Bay area to the legislature to establish a state water board. This would have been an appointed body which would have had the authority to make decisions about transferring water between water-rich areas like North Florida to water-poor areas like Tampa Bay and South Florida. The council evaluated that proposal, identified the adverse economic and environmental impacts, helped organize some opposition, and as a result of that, the legislature did not enact that proposal, and to today those decisions are made on a regional basis by the 5 regional water management districts. Also again, began providing an economic impact modeling I mentioned earlier. Council at that time formed the I-75 Corridor Council to work with the Department of Transportation to enhance landscaping at the interchanges on I-75 and provide enhanced wayfinding signage. If you notice, the last few decades, most of those have now been implemented at the interchanges, as well as the new sign, welcome sign into the state of Florida, the Georgia border. In our most recent decade, the teens, after the storms in 04 and 05 that impacted our region, the council completed a regional economic and disaster resiliency study to evaluate the impact on structure damage and its ad valorem impacts of diminishing ad valorem revenue, and the amount of time it would take to recover and resources needed to meet that recovery needs. In concert with other councils around the state, completed the first statewide evacuation study, which received a number of national awards and recognized as a best practice leading approach for hurricane evacuation. Also, working with our partners around the state and the other councils, completed a statewide coordinated economic development strategies, working with the Florida Chamber Foundation, utilizing their 6 pillars for securing Florida's future economy. And more recently, with the opening of the new Sable Trail natural gas transmission pipeline through our region and the existing Florida natural gas pipeline, which traverses our region, working with the U.S. Department of Transportation, that emergency response team, providing training for first responders for possible incidents at compressor stations and other locations along those 2 transmission lines. And our most recent initiative was just started last fall in response to requests from this board for the council to convene the counties along the Swanee River Valley to address the ongoing issue with raw sewage spills by the city of Valdosta. The council formed a task force made up of 12 county commissioners from each of the county. Commissioner Davis is serving as chair of that task force and providing outstanding leadership to address this issue. They've been meeting for the past several months, adopted a resolution concerning the matter. Have reached out to our state and federal delegation. Commissioner Davis testified before the Florida Senate Committee on Environment and Natural Resources a few weeks ago in Tallahassee to brief them on the issue and ask for their support and assistance. We've gotten support from our federal delegation, our U.S. senators and their staff, and we have a meeting scheduled this evening with the City of Valdosta City Council, and the county commissioners on the task force will be traveling up to Valdosta tonight to have a public workshop, to sit down with them and discuss this ongoing issue and our concerns that we have for its adverse public health issue of folks coming in contact with the water when it's contaminated, the impact on the environment, and the economic impact and the adverse image it creates for our tourism promotion and marketing for using the rivers. And they're working at it. They recognize the problem. They're in the consent order with the state of Georgia. They've spent a bunch of money already, over $100 million, to build a new treatment plant. The old plant was in the floodplain. This new plant's a mile and a half from the river. But they continue to have problems. There were 4 spills last year, a fairly significant one just in December. Their biggest issue now is their infiltration of their collection system. They have plans to spend another $60 million over the next 10 years. But the commissioners on the task force want to bring to their attention the adverse impact it's having on our region and our citizens, and to encourage them to pick up their pace. We need this problem solved sooner than later, and we can't live with it for another 10 years. It's going on for well over 10 years already. So over the past 50 years, the council's had 3 executive directors, 39 chairs, 2 of those from Madison County. Former Commissioner Ellis served as chair of the council, and Commissioner Davis is a past chair of the council as well. And 396 elected officials and gubernatorial appointees have served on the Regional Planning Council over the past 5 decades. We accomplished all this with a very dedicated staff. This is our senior management team. And the next slide are the really important folks. These administrative support staff, the project managers and planners that make all this good work happen throughout our region. So in summary, Mr. Chair, we're very excited and proud to be celebrating our 50th anniversary. We're part of a statewide network of 10 councils. We're made up of 2/3 elected officials and 1/3 gubernatorial appointees on our board. We're a planning, coordinating, facilitating, convening organization, as you can see from the projects and initiatives we've been involved in over the past 5 decades. We're not a regulatory agency. We don't issue any permits. We can't make anyone do anything. We can't prohibit anyone from doing anything. We like to say we have the power of persuasion of good ideas. And our program and portfolio is very diversified, ranging from regional activities to public safety to economic development, transportation, and local government assistance. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my overview of the council and a review of some of the significant projects we've been engaged in and working with the county over the past 50 years. At this time, we ask for your respectful consideration to issue a proclamation to declare May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day in Madison County.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Pass 5-0. Mr. Coach, you left out one important thing on 1969, 50 years. I left Gainesville, Florida in 1969 to go to Florida State University, become a junior in criminology, and had to attend school with Wetzel Blair. And it was my last year of being single.
Let's do it.
If I would, just Scott, I know you're the 3rd executive director, but you've been there how many years?
I've been with the Regional Planning Council since 1976, 43 years. I've lived most of these projects.
That's why I said, when he's talking about that vast amount of knowledge, information on our region, and thank you for what you're doing for us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your time this morning. Thank you for your membership and support of the council, and thank you for helping us celebrate our 50th anniversary.
Thank you. This time we'll take a 10-minute break.
Pretty good tournament, I thought.
6-6 plus.